For you, Dave. Are the mics on, by the way? Sound people out there? Okay.
Hello.
Dave, so we're doing the SWOT analysis. We'll start with strengths. Just a question about the dispensary industry. What do you think is the biggest strength that we have as an industry together?
Really, I think the biggest strength is right now we get to create and decide how it's going to move forward. You know, we don't have to sit and buy and be bystanders. We actually have the ability. We're the ones in contact with the people. We're the ones who get the signatures on the ballots. If that's what we need to do to change the rules and regulations, I think the biggest strength is that we can get the people behind us.
That's amazing. Thank you. Our next speaker, Pfrommer. Do you want to come up, Rick?
Sure.
Rick is with Harborside Health Center. He's done a heck of a lot for the movement. He's kind of one of the unsung heroes that maybe you don't hear about all the time, but he's been laboring nonstop for all of us for, well, getting on 30 years almost. Oh my God. Take it away. I'm sorry.
Yes, you're making all of us older and older. Thank you, Dave. Not the sign down too. Gosh, from pot to SWOT. 3 years ago, I had no idea what a SWOT analysis was, other than maybe trying to get rid of a fly or something. And we started doing them at Harborside and started looking at our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. And we continue to do that to this day. And they're an essential part of, as Debbie was saying, the process of really honestly analyzing your business as it increasingly is becoming a real mainstream businesses. I think one of the things that makes California different, the dispensary scene different in California than anywhere else is, well, for one, we've been doing this for close to 20 years already. Even though we don't have statewide regulations, some of our local civic regulations are amongst the best in the nation and are certainly less burdensome than the supposedly legal situations that we see in some other states. You know, one of the most important things I see in the dispensary world in California coming up is, you know, how do we maintain our heart and soul? And before that 20 years, we were doing it legally here in California. We were doing it for another 20 years underground. So California, unlike any other place, has got close to a 40-year infrastructure of cannabis production, consumption, distribution, et cetera, et cetera. There's thousands of heritage farmers from up and down the state who are multi-generational at this point, whose entire livelihood, as well as the livelihood of all those small towns that they live in, completely depends on cannabis. So I think one of the big challenges for the dispensaries is, you know, how do we continue to form partnerships with these people? How do we represent them in the legislative process that's happening as we talk in Sacramento? How do they get represented during the initiative process? You know, it's very easy to talk about coming in as they did in other states, and I really don't mean you to pick on. I have infinite respect for Colorado and Washington for being first. Should have been us, but they beat us to the punch. But, you know, building 600, 800 light grows and using that kind of electrical draw in order to provide cannabis when you have abundant sunshine. Unfortunately, Colorado, you are seeing shifting to greenhouse production finally to some extent, but there's still literally, you know, multi-hundred lighters being set up there on a basis. They also wrote their law to limit outside investment, to not make anybody from another state a principal. Basically meaning they were allowed to build up a monopoly over the last couple of years, and those folks are strongly moving into California at this point. There's deals on the table that they're already doing, there's other ones being talked about, and certainly, you know, this is America, we all have a right to do business and to do the things, but we've already built a really good model for dispensaries here. It wasn't in California that you heard about people overdosing on edibles or edibles being mislabeled. You don't hear a lot of, you know, I mean, we've certainly had some issues with BHO hash production, and so in a more regulated model that can also be safely produced. But, you know, I see the biggest threat, if we're doing the SWOT analysis at this point of the medical cannabis industry in California, is, you know, how do we maintain that heart and soul? There's a fantastic documentary that I just got to see the other day that was about Dennis Peron's first. Everybody put their hands up in the audience and knows who Dennis Peron is. That's pretty good. It should have been every hand in the room, but that's pretty good. There's a piece that this guy did about 10 years ago called The First U.S. Pot Club. That's all about Dennis Peron's Market Street Club. That for any of you that had a chance to experience it, was a beautiful moment in time. They had two different floors.